in today's lesson, we are going to be looking at intervals. Even though we are talking about the game, because we want to do a game, I will encourage every one of you to develop a form of a game. I'm going to give you guys an idea about the kind of games that you can build that HTML will allow you to build without sophisticated requirements like Canvas. Canvas allow you to do advanced form of gaming, but just using divs alone, there are few games you can pull off and then we still look very good. There are concepts I want you guys to understand, and that's the concept I want to talk about, today. And that concept will find its way somehow into the gaming platform, and that is based on intervals. So we have three things we want to talk about today: set intervals, timeout, and we're talking about clear intervals. So they are pretty basic, and their understanding is very important, and how to use them and when to use them. So I'm going to be starting with set timeout. Set timeout is a way to create a delay in a system such that the system can wait for a duration of time before something happens. Maybe you launch an application and you want to create an artificial delay in the system, say 5 seconds before you do something. So that is what set timeout is all about. Let's create a kind of a delay and see how it works. So this is how it works. You can have a variable declared and say time O. So set timeout carries two parameters. The first parameter is the function that you want it to perform after the delay has happened. So the function, let's say we'll just say some function. Some function we've not created it all. Just say some function. Then followed by how much time you want to waste before that function will be called. So let's say 5 seconds. I think 5 seconds should be 5,000. So let's go ahead and create the sum function. Of course, as usual, we're just going to do console log. And we just log hi. So we'll go there and then we run. Okay, so you can see that it took quite a long time for that hi to generate. So I'm going to run it again so that you guys will see it. I'm going to do two so that you see some function 1 and some function 2. So I can call this 1 and then I create another function, and this time around I call this 2. Then I give this guy 7.5. We don't want to wait the whole day, and we can call this another name, right? And then we can do, this is 5 seconds high after 5 seconds. It's a concept that you guys, I need to pass across to you. So the concept that you can make something wait, you can wait before you execute something. So this one is high after 7.5 seconds. So let's execute and see what we have. So if I run this now, watch out on the output. The output section is we are still waiting. So you can see high after 5 seconds, then high after 7.5 seconds. That is what this is all about. The fact that we have this object, meaning that we can actually control that set timeout, because it's possible that maybe you are waiting for 5 seconds. During that time that you're waiting for 5 seconds, it's possible that you might decide that you don't want to wait anymore. Like, stop this whole thing. Imagine a game is loading and then it's taking some time, even though, well, you are the one that created the artificial wait time. You want to take control of that 5 seconds and say, shut it down, I don't want it to run again. So let's say at this point that we've gotten to this stage, you want to shut down this guy from running. You call a function to cancel this set timeout, and that is called clearTimeout. There's a function called clearTimeout. So nobody's calling this function. The function is just calling itself based on the way the program is running from beginning to the end. So you can actually create a handle, maybe a trigger event, whereby if when the system loads, by the time it's counting the seconds, before it gets to 5 seconds, you can cancel it just to experiment it and see that it works. But if I pass it here, so to clear a particular timeout, you have to pass the variable that you use to hold the set timeout. So if I want to cancel these 5 seconds, I don't want these 5 seconds to work, even though I've created it here, I can come down here and say I'm clearing these 5 seconds. So therefore, these 5 seconds will never execute based on our code. However, the 7.5 is going to run. So I've initiated it. We're expecting only 7.5 to run. You guys see 7.5 was the one executed. The one that was called on top, it did not execute because the code started running from the top. It gets here, it stopped this one from running, but nobody is stopping the 7.5 seconds. So it went ahead and executes after 7.5 seconds. This is the first function. So you can start to imagine where this can, be of use. The idea of showing you guys all these functions is to be able to pull things together and say, oh, this is where I think this will be useful in the future. And that's the idea why all these things are coming to light. We move to the next thing. Set interval. It's kind of different. Notice this one runs only once. Set intervals runs every time. We use it one of our examples that we've done before. So this is called set interval. So let me clear this. And it also runs like this. It has this kind of feature whereby you have a variable like this on the left hand side, because you can also cancel the interval of what you set, because it's possible that, of course, you don't want to run any loop forever. Every loop should have an ending point. So, and that's what this object is here for. This value here is such that whenever you are done, you want to be able to stop it. In the course of the execution of your program, you still want to have control and stop it at some point. So you have this declaration where you have set interval. It requires the function and how many, or the delay, every delay that you want it to be called. This 5 seconds means it will always run every 5 seconds. So we want to make it something shorter because the 5 is too long. So let's do 1 second. This some function can be anything, by the way. I just gave it this arbitrary name. Just to show that that is working, we do a console log. And this time around, I can just do a random max high and say after 1 sec. And I can concatenate it with max class random just to show you that it's randomly generating this section. That's the idea of this max.random. So let's give it a try and run it. So on running this, we have every second. So if you can keep the pace, just notice at the rate at which it's spilling out the data for us. You will notice that is every second. Every second is spilling this. So imagine what you can do having the power of being able to tell something to run every seconds for you. So you can begin to imagine what you can do with that. You can create a blinking div. I will do a real life scenario for you guys. You will see how we can create something that will be blinking, right? Because you've declared that every second. So you can reduce it to every microseconds or something, depending on how much interval you want to do. And by the way, you should be careful when using this kind of memory intensive function, because as you will know, imagine you are doing this every second and you attach it to a very large stuff, it might bring down your application. So you have to be very careful when using a function like this. You don't want to put it inside a loop or make it carry a lot of heavy load. But you see a use case scenario how we are going to use this in our application. So this is set interval. So let's even see how to use it in a real life scenario. Let me give you a scenario where we can use this. Let's put this to play. We want to do a blinking div. So let me do ID and call it blink. So what we are making blink is we want the background to be red. And by default, our background of this entire app should be... Okay, so let's move on. The idea is that you want to make this blink with intervals. That's the idea of what we want to do, just to show you the power of intervals. And you can use it for anything that repeats, but you also want to be able to cancel it, to cancel the interval. So let's make it as a point of click so that we can control our interval setting. So I can just do button here. So we can say underscore start and underscore stop there. I'm using underscore so that in case if there's a function or a keyword called stop, so that I don't get into trouble. So let's go ahead and do our start and stop. So you know what start is supposed to do? Start is supposed to create the intervals. So, but I can go ahead and create my constants of the div, which is the blink. can safely do something like this and just return 0, so that we can then do this one like this. So once we click start, it will do blink function. So let's say blink div, so that I can do it for every 5 seconds or so. So we don't need to go and run function for this. But before we do that, let's go ahead and first stop it. So to stop, we'll call the stop guy, and we just say clear interval. And what is the variable we're clearing is already there. So remember how to clear interval. We just clear based on the variable. This variable is available already. So in case you go and clear interval before you start, it will know that the variable was created already, so no problem. So what we are left with is to create the function to blink. Let's go ahead and do that. The function to blink is, we just do this like this. You know, blink is like, the default color is red. Then to make it blink, we have to make it maybe transparent or black, because the background is black. We'll just make it red, black, red, black, red, black. It will just form that blinking effect. So we then do that, we check, we say if the blink, that, remember we have it here as an object, if the blink dot style dot background color, ground color is equal to red, else make it red. So that is what we are doing. So if it is red, change it to what? To black. Else keep it as red. This is very simple. That's what will do our blink for us. Moment of truth. Let's see if everything will work. So I've clicked on that button. Let me go and check my console and see what is happening. So that blinking is too short. Let's make it 1 second or even lower. But we will check again to see if we have error in our code. So on clicking on start, we have error. So this function is not declared. Start is not defined. So it says that start is not defined. So apparently we've not tied our app.js into our code. So you should be able to detect all these little things. So let's give it a try again. So we click that and it says assignment constant. Okay, gave us one error, but I need to go and look at this error. It's blinking, by the way, but let me check out the error that it says. Okay, so do you guys catch the error? We are creating constant interval. It's supposed to be, because it will be changing, it's supposed to be let, not constant. That's why that error happened. So let's go ahead and change that to let, because this value is not a constant 0. This value will change over time. So that's what happened there. Let's give it a try again. Even though it worked, you shouldn't have error in your code. So you can see that when you click on start, so the blinking is not so fast, it's delaying. So you want to have that, beeping effect. And this is due to the number of seconds. So if you want to slash this by 2, that should be 500. That should be half a second. So if we try this again, then you click again. So you should have that fast effect. So this is a different blinking system. So let's try if the stop works. So if you do stop, we should expect it to stop. Obviously, stop at black, which doesn't matter. So you can code it to stop at red if you want to, or you make sure that when it's red is when you click on stop. So you stop it. You can see that the guy is working. How can you design a game system using divs? This box is a div, obviously, and you can use any other element. It doesn't have to be div. But the idea is that you can easily manipulate it. That's why we've been using div all this while. The question that arises, what kind of game can you design? So I want you guys to be very open-minded, on this section. So I'll start up with a Paris game, which is very easy to do. And I'm going to try and illustrate how it works and how you can make use of it. I will try and create something, not the real thing, right? I'm not going to create the real thing today because it will take us quite a lot of time. I'll just create something very simple. Then you're supposed to build on it, not exactly what I do, but in the idea. So I'll be building a spaceship game, a space kind of a game whereby the spacecraft will be shooting other spacecrafts. That's the game I want to create. And it's fine if you want to create the same thing, but I'll give you ideas of other games that you can easily create, and you see how I want to start the game. then it will give you an idea how you can do yours. Another game you can do is car race, and then you dodge obstacles. The game we are creating will not have features like levels, like score, those advanced things will not have it. The idea is that let's just play around with the keyboard and see that these things are working. Then you can go ahead and take it advanced if you really want to, right? We just want to play with the basic concept. Another thing you can also design about from these two games I've mentioned now is also a puzzle game. You can also do a puzzle game whereby you can have boxes around and move them around and decide, maybe you have boxes, and then if you move the boxes around, you can open the door. If you move it in the right proportion, you can open the door. So you can also have shooting game whereby somebody will be one place, and then as long as you're moving the mouse, the gun will be shooting continuously. Once the bullet hits the enemy will explode. So those little things, that's what makes the game, the fun. The fact that you are shooting, the fact that the bullet is hitting the enemy is exploding. Those little things, we'll see how, to make them work here. So let's go ahead and start the game itself that I want to do. This is a preparation, not the game fully. We won't be doing the whole game fully. Just like the way I did the calculator, that I did a sample for you guys to go and work with. So I'm going to do something like that too in this section. It's very easy working with black background. Most of the time when you start with your gaming platform, you want to have a kind of an entry point where your game is going to come in. So most of the time you can call it game board. And your game board always have background. The background most of the time is animated to make sense with the object that you're moving. If you are working with a motion game, you will need to have a background that is moving so that as the game is going, it looks as if maybe if it's a plane, in my own case now, it will look as if the plane is flying, right? If it's a car race, you want to have a background that is moving that will make it look as if the car is really moving, while all you are doing is just moving left and right. So you guys will see something like that. I'm gonna do something like that while on this. Your game will have a devoted left, right, top, and bottom. So it won't use the whole screen. So you want to have this div that will have kind of control where you can style and determine what should fit in. Now, the next thing I want to do, since I'm designing a kind of spacecraft, I want to have a kind of div that will say ship. The next thing is I already have my spaceship downloaded from the internet. I will just bring it here, src, and it's called ship. You really do anything yourself, like get assets yourself. This is a beautiful animation of a ship. I just got it on the internet, right? Most of the things you want to do, like the idea of giving you guys, if it's a car race you want to build, you can easily get a car that will, mimic what it is you want. So you need to first draw it in your mind, what it is you want to design in your mind. I saw this, it was not pointing up. I need to make it point up. Of course, I'm going to use CSS. In fact, this can even be a design. Anyway, this can be the design of my game, that the plane is always moving diagonally, right? But just to make it simple, I'm going to change it to make it upright. I can move my ship in such a way that it will rotate in the way I want it. So let me try minus 45 degree or so, because I think it's rotating. Yeah, so I have my ship in this form. This is where I want it. Now you guys have been, watching all the classes, and you know that we want to be moving this guy all around. That's the idea of this game. Because before we do anything, you need to know what the game is all about and what it's supposed to be doing. What we want to do in this game is the fact that we want to be able to move left and right. The spacecraft, even though this does not look like a fighter jet or something, this is the one I could see. The guy is supposed to be moving left and right. And for you to be able to move easily, you need to be able to do something to the elements in such a way that the position will be absolute. You guys should know all this by now. And then you'll be able to change the position to anything you want. Do you see how the stuff is moving based on the position? So this is what we'll be changing with JavaScript to be able to allow us to move it anywhere we want it. So by default, you might say that the top should start from, the plane will start from ground and then be shooting enemy that's coming from above. That's why you need to first have an idea of what you want to do. We're not just starting it, we don't know what we want to do. We know what we want to do on a spaceship on the bottom, and the idea is that there will be enemy fighters on top, and then you'll be shooting it. This is a game that I'm sure you would have played before, so this is pretty easy. What I want to do now is to also show you background, how background works. And I want to do background. The way I search for that spacecraft is very easy. I just type it and then I saw it there. Space animation with stars or something to show that kind of effect. So let's see if we can get space animation. Let's now put the background into the app and see how it looks like. If it's not fine, we'll just maintain this black background. So the idea was to do stars myself, but that's what I'm going to do in the real actual game. But for now, I'm just going to try to bring the background and see how it looks like. If it's looking horrible, we end up just using a black background. So let's bring in the background. We have this one here. These ones that are not tall, it's going to be very, very difficult to make use of, but let's just try. So we try, first one is bg1.gif. So let's play with this. Obviously, you can change the size. First of all, repeat, no repeat, should not repeat. Then we enlarge it, size, let's say 1900, 800, 900. Okay, this one is it's just there. Let's move on to the next one. So let's see bg2. bg2 needs to stretch by a lot, so bg2 is also not good. I think bg1 is still better, even though it's not looking bad. But let's move on to bg3. It's looking a little bit better. Let's see what 4 has to offer. We just go with black. So I will tell you guys what I wanted to do, but we won't be able to do it in this lesson. What I'll be doing will be to generate my own stars, and my stars will be moving down to create the illusion. We will not be able to do it in this video. The next thing I want to do is ability for us to control this guy, which is fairly easy. Everybody here should be able to control this plane with either your mouse. Remember, we did something with the mouse whereby the object was going the way our mouse was going, so that when you click it will shoot. But what I want to do is spacebar should shoot and my left and right should move. So quickly, let's do that. So first of all, we need to get the object in our hand, which is sheep. So we have it, but that's not the concern. Let's add window events so that we can be able to move left and right and space to do what actions we want to do. So we want to focus on key press. When the key is pressed, it should go ahead and run this function, our E for events, so that we can monitor the key pressed. So I'm going to use switch to detect and check what key was pressed. So I'm focused on left and right for now for us to test. So arrow left means it's left. So let's check what happened in arrow left. And while we are checking, I want to console log the results of the key so that we can see other things as well in case to use to catch error. So now that we want to push to left, how will this object move left? Quite easy. We just need to be able to set some parameters. And once those parameters are set, we'll come here and change the left property of it. We've already changed the things we need to change. So I'm going to create some variable and I'm going to call it not constant. Well, I'm still going to create some constants. And this will be shift default left. That's the left position of the shift by default. Should be 0. Then I need some constants to say that the interval of movement interval, I want it to move every by 10 10. So it means when you move right, it will move by the 10 by 10. That's how it should be moving. I can then do my shift left is equal to my shift left plus the interval that I want it to be moving by. So that at the end of the day, I now have this to be plus px. So that is supposed to work if I do left. That's the idea. The key is registering. Okay. So you can see that it's moving, but it's moving on clicking left. It should be going the other way around. So it should be minus. Okay, so let's do for right. This is for left, then right should be like this. So, but right will then be plus. And the next thing I want to do is to actually shoot out bullets from the spacecraft. Because it's going to be another object, you can actually create it by default. You have several methods. So again, we are going back to the point whereby you need to decide what you need to do. Will this spaceship be able to shoot multiple bullets or just one bullet? So because that will determine how your game is going to be designed. Because you are doing something, small like this, you can just start off by saying, okay, let's just make it one bullet. So I'm going to create the bullet here. I'm going to make the bullet available by default, but upon fire, it will then be available for us to see. Object for us to use, it should be available so that we can be able to control the trajectory of that bullet. And again, what the bullet is going to do is that it should leave the spaceship and go up. This is where we're going to use our set interval, for the bullet to keep traveling up until it gets to this space. And then if there is any item to target, you should destroy the target. That's the point. So let's see how we can achieve that. Okay, so we've created that bullet element, but you've not styled it. Again, you can go and get a bullet design and do it, but again, to save time, we'll just go ahead and use CSS to style it. You can see it on the left hand side, but let's make it very big. Let's make it 50. So you can see the bullet. This is the way the bullet is supposed to go when you hit the spacebar, because we want to use spacebar to capture us releasing the bullet. So you might want the bullet to start from the current position, because when you move like this and you release the bullet, where is the bullet supposed to come out from? Not here, by the way. It's supposed to come out underneath it. So that's fine, don't worry, we're going to do that. So first of all, we want to make the bullet come out of the belly, not just to show on top like that. So we need to go down by, let's say, 600. Let me see what 600 is. So this is 600. So let's go down a little bit to 6. Let me see 610. So 610 is okay, or 620. So that the bullet will just come out like that and fire up. We have our left will be defined automatically. So all this value will be defined because by default is visible. So I want to make it display not visible by default. You know that you can change all this with JavaScript. So by default, we are making it not visible so that at the point of fire, it will be visible and then it will go up like that. That is the intention. Let's go ahead and see how we can achieve this. So we want to fire at the one space bar to be what we will use to fire. And space bar is denoted by space. I will just make a comment here and say space bar. And then I will just say fire. For fire, it's going to have something different here. We already have our bullets here that we can manipulate. So first of all, let me first make it display, but that's not what we need to display first. I want to create some sample details just to make sure that it's working before we now do the major thing. So my left, let me make it 50%. So I want my left to be 50%. This is just to show that that section is firing. Then we're not worried about our top for now. Let's see if this code is working. So if we do this and we press spacebar, do you guys notice that our guy showed up here, our bullet showed up. So this section is working well. So now that our bullet is showing up, but our bullet is showing up in the wrong place. Our bullet is supposed to show up right underneath or right by this guy. Wherever the plane is where the bullet is supposed to come out from. How can you know the current location of this guy? You can use a new function. There's a new function I want to show you guys. And that can be removed from the ship itself. It's a very interesting function. I'll be using it a lot, to do some complex stuff. And it's called get bounding clients. Correct. The idea is to get the geolocation of that object in space. Don't mind the fact that we're talking about space shuttle, but it's to get the location of this object wherever it is on the browser. It will not only get the XYZ coordinate, it will even get the width, the dimension, the size of the image. It will get that for you. That's the point of this guy. So it will get the width, because if it's possible that maybe this width has changed or whatever, or you don't know the width. So instead of you manually calculating the width of this spacecraft, this guy would have gone to get the width for you, and then you can manipulate it based on what you have. So I would now say my ship location is now inside here, so that I can then manipulate it to do more stuff. Why am I getting the ship location? Because I want to know where I will put the bullets, right? So I want to make sure that I'm starting from left. So let me console log all the things available, so that by the time I'm dumping it out, you guys are not confused to what I'm doing, and you're going to see some interesting data. So if I press my spacebar, I'm supposed to see the location. So watch out on this guy. So this is giving us the bottom. How interesting. It's giving us the height of the object. It's giving us the left, the right, the top, the width, the x-axis, the y-axis, giving us everything. And we're going to be doing some mathematics with this. So pay attention to all these values. I'm going to be using them. Even the width, I'm going to be using them. So pay attention to it. Because if I want to put this object in the middle, I need to pay attention to the width of the image, so that I can divide it by 2 to make sure that this bullet is dead center in the middle. That's why I showed you all these things, because by the time I start using them, so that you won't like, where did I get all these guys from? So my left will be to make sure that the ship location also its x-axis plus the ship location width divided by 2. Everything plus the px. So let's put spacebar. So you can see that, you see that is working. Notice that guy, it worked automatically. Just for you to see it in action, let's change the top position so that you can see it clearly. So let's say the top should be, let's say 500 pixels. So if I go again and press my spacebar, so do you see it's off a little bit, though that can be corrected, or we can just ignore that. So it's off by a little bit, but you can just ignore it. Or you can just say you should add a 2 in the front or there. Do you see, as I'm moving the plane and I shoot, the bullet comes to where it's supposed to be. As I'm moving the plane and I shoot, so the idea is that when I move and I shoot, the bullet is supposed to leave the plane and go up and hit its target. So let's go ahead and do that. So I need to remove the top. The top is what will be moving dynamically. This top part is what will be changing automatically. The left will not change again, because you've released the bullet. What will be changing is the top till it hits whatever it needs to hit, or till it goes away. So here is where I'm going to say, I'm going to do our set interval, by the way, set interval. And the interval you are setting, you are going to say fire bullets or something. That's the function we want to call. And you can decide how often the bullet should change position. So this is just demo. We still have some cleanup to do, just for us to see what's going on first. Then you guys will see what it is we need to do. So we have fire bullets. We need to create a function called fire bullet, and we are dealing with bullet. It's bullet that is moving, and then what we're focused on is the top. So we need to already know the top of the bullet, meaning the where the bullet is supposed to start from. We're supposed to know that place. So you can initiate a default location for your bullet top. So that will be the default location. Let's use 500. You then have the 500, which is here, bullet top, plus how many illustration do you want it to be moving by? Do you want it to be moving by 111 or by 20? So I'm going to be using the same interval for movement, which is movement interval, that we're using to move the plane to also move the speed of the bullet. So that whatever you now have, this will now be equal to these pixels. So let's get to see if this will work. So let's move to the middle and fire our bullet. You can see that the bullet is working in reverse. So, but that's fine. It just means that we need to change this to minus. So let's try this again, and then let's move to somewhere else, and then we fire. Now our bullet is moving up, right? So this is the idea of what we want to do. If you move to elsewhere, you fire a bullet, the bullet continues like that. But the idea is that if you want to have multiple bullets, you need to do, something else to have multiple bullets. But the idea is that we are working with a single bullet for now. So to make it faster, you need to reduce the time to something fast. You can see this one is more smoother. So you can even reduce it further anyway. You can reduce it further depending on how fast you want it, right? I think in those games, they are way, way faster than this. It's not something that somebody used to see. Aha, this is more like it. So, but there's a bug. We're going to kill the bug right now. So there's a bug. Once you fire a bullet, it's supposed to go out of scope so that it doesn't bring memory issue to your work. Just as I've said, if you fire a bullet, it's going to cause a lot of problem for you, because that bullet you fired is running forever. You are setting interval and it's running forever, right? You need to find a way to be able to stop that bullet and cancel it out so that it doesn't cause issue for your browser in the end. So that's memory consumption. So you want to know that that bullet has gone out, and then you need to be able to stop that bullet from running. So that one will be handled, in my own code. We won't handle it in this class. Object collision. So object collision is something you will deal with in games very well, in the sense that when any game you are playing with, sometimes you need to collide with something. The one that is difficult to control is to specify when the bullet or when it collides with another object. Because as I mentioned, maybe you are creating a dodging game, a game that requires you to dodge something. So once that element hits another element, it's called collision. So you either want to say, oh, you failed, or oh, you win. How do you detect collision? So let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll call it a day. Let's build an obstacle. And the idea is that these obstacles are supposed to be generated dynamically and then flood the game, so that because these things are dynamic. The same thing with the bullet. The bullet is also going to be dynamic in such a way that it's going to be firing, and the obstacle are also going to be dynamic, and they are going to be coming at you. So you have this now. And as I've said, the idea is that you're supposed to be able to shoot, boom, we get it, right? And there should be a way for you to detect an impact. Immediately hit it, the system should be able to detect that and destroy the asteroid. You can play an animation, whatever it is, you should be able to hit it and do that. From the knowledge of what you have, and this thing is very important to be able to think through all the things you know. Very important to think through all the things you've learned till now. Let's go ahead and go through the JavaScript section. So this guy is where the firing is happening, right? How do you know that the item has hit the asteroid? The only way you know is if you know the location of the asteroid and you know the location of the bullet. So once they collide, you will use get bounding client rect to detect if they are in the same axis. Like, you know that in space we have X and Y axis. So you will check it if they're in X and Y axis. So I need to stop this my timer from running very fast so that we can check it. So we need to be able to dump the location of the block. We've not created the block object, by the way. And then we can report the location of the block. The location of the block is fine because it's not going to be moving. But if it is moving, it doesn't matter. Our bullet is also moving. If the asteroid is also moving, it doesn't matter. So let's check the current position. You know that our bullet is moving and the bullets keep changing. So you will see how the bullet will be changing its position. Bullet position. Because you want to compare the bullet position and the asteroid position so that you can check and then do what you need to do. Bullet fired. You can see that the bullet just got out. This must be the slowest bullet in history. Now this is what I want to show you guys. So look at the details that we have here for the block. It said the X position is 169 and the Y is 30. Now look at the bullet. The bullet is 220 while the Y is 470. But the idea is that is what you use to detect if an item has actually collided with another item. That's what you use. So you get to see the code in the video by the time I put it out. So that's how we will do that section.
Thank you for staying to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on bell notification in order to be notified when we release new videos. See you in the next one.